Even the best data engineers' pipelines can sometimes fail to protect your Tableau reporting from data quality issues. Today, I want to talk to you about how you can use your Tableau server as the last line of defense against bad data. Allow me to slowly introduce how this can be done by walking through a simple scenario shown within this diagram. On the far left, we have a load plan or script responsible for populating a table with North America's sales data on a daily basis. The expected granularity of this table is 1 row per product category per day in 2023. There are 3 product categories: software, hardware, and office supplies. As a result, the expected number of rows in this table is 1,095, or 365 rows per product category. Given this scenario, there are 2 things we can easily protect our reporting from if the integrity of the pipeline is compromised. Those 2 things are duplicates and missing data. Let's look at how we might do that using Tableau Prep. Alright, so I've switched over to Tableau Prep so that we can dive deeper into this prep flow that's going to allow us to avoid having missing data and duplicates in our published data source that our downstream users are using for North America sales reporting in Tableau. On the far left, we have an expectation node and a sales input node. Both of these source their data from a MySQL database that I specifically set up for the purpose of this demo. On the far right, we have a data gaps published data source, a North America sales published data source, and a duplicates published data source. The data gaps published data source is going to contain data in instances where there is missing data. The North America sales published data source is going to be the data source that's for reporting purposes. So this is going to be the published data source that's reporting in analytics teams. Just, any type of downstream user that wants to report on North America sales is going to reference or use within their Tableau workbooks or maybe even downstream flows. The duplicates published data source is, like the data gaps published data source, this is going to contain instances of duplicates. And both of these, so the data gaps and the duplicates published data sources, those are going to be reviewed by the data teams. Hopefully, in a timely manner, they will address any instances of duplicates and any instances of missing data. So let's move back to the far left and talk about these 2 nodes. So as previously mentioned, both of these nodes are referencing or sourcing data from my SQL database. Let's take a look at the expectation input node. This expectation input node generates data based on a custom SQL query, and that query is shown here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to MySQL Workbench so that we can break down this query by first taking a look at each of the tables. So we have a calendar table, and we have a common table expression that's called unique product category. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But within that common table expression, we see it references a table called North America Sale. So let's talk about these 2 tables first, so calendar and North America Sale. Let me switch over to MySQL Workbench. All right, so I've switched over, and we'll walk through each of those tables in turn. The calendar table, we have 1 row per day in year 2023. So from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. That looks like this. So 1 row per day. In each of these days, we also have additional attributes that further describe these date values. So for example, we have January 1st, 2023, and the month name that describes this date value is January. The day name for the 1st of January 2023 is Sunday. Is it a weekend? Yes. January 2nd, 2023. Month name, January. Day name, Monday. Is it a weekend? No, it's not. Additionally, there are attributes like year number, quarter number, month number, week number, etc. Again, these all correspond to the date value within the same row. Given that we have 1 row per day from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023, we should be expecting 365 rows. That's what we have. The North America sales table, a little bit different, right? It's not a calendar table. What we're expecting in there is 1 row per product category and day in year 2023. There are 3 unique product categories. That's going to be hardware, software, and office supplies. And given those 2 pieces of information, we should be able to predict or calculate the number of rows that are in that table. So we have 365 days in year 2023, and we have 3 unique product categories. The result should be 1,095 rows. If I run this, a simple select star from North America sale, we should see 1,095 rows, but we don't. And the reason we don't see 1,095 is because I've already executed the SQL statements that are responsible for introducing missing data and duplicates. Those 2 problems, I've already executed those statements to introduce them for the purpose of this demo. Now, both of these tables were referenced in that SQL query in the expectation input node. That query looked like this, right? So it looked something like this. Well, it looked exactly like this. We had a common table expression called unique product category. And the purpose of this common table expression is to return a list of the unique product categories found within the North America sales table. We should see 3, right? So the same 3 I mentioned previously: hardware, software, and office supplies. What we're going to do with that result set is we're going to cross-join it to the calendar. So we're going to pair up each of these unique product categories with each day in the calendar table. And that is 3 unique product categories times 365 days. That's going to be our 1,095 rows. That's what we're expecting. Of course, whenever I run this, right, we're not going to get, well, we will get the 1,095 in this case because we even though we're missing data in the North America sales table, we still have the presence of all 3 unique product categories, which are hardware, software, and office supplies. So we're still going to get the 1,095. So again, run this. The select statement contains the attributes from the calendar table that describe the date, each date value, in this case a report date, because we've aliased it. And then also the product category. So this is our expectation, right? So the 1,095 rows. Let me switch back to Tableau Prep to continue down our thought process of this flow. All right, so we've talked about both of these input nodes, and just for clarity, I'm going to click into the North America sales input node so you can see that it's just reading purely from this table. There's nothing special going on. It's just reading from the North America sales table. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace from each of these input nodes to the published data sources, starting with North America sales. North America sales, we read from the sales table, we get that data, and then I create a data quality checkpoint. Now, there's nothing complicated in this flow at all, using the same features that you probably use day in and day out in your prep flows. It may just be the only thing that's new here is probably going to be the concept of using Tableau Server as your last line of defense and how you might go about doing that. And that's the purpose of this video, right? To showcase that. So here I've created a data quality checkpoint, which more or less I've just created the derived attribute that tags each row as being unique or duplicates. And our definition for uniqueness is based on the combination of report date and product category. Only 1 row per combination should exist. So how do I tag rows as being unique or duplicate? I'm going to use a built-in feature in Tableau Prep. If you are familiar with SQL, you'll probably notice some of this syntax. I'm basically saying if more than 1 row exists for each report date and product category combination, we'll tag that as a duplicate. For the first row, so the first instance of each combination, assign a value of 1 to that, and that's going to be the unique one, right? So that's going to be the unique row, and any subsequent instance that's encountered is going to be a duplicate. So if I have 2 rows that correspond to hardware and January 1st, 2023, the first row that is encountered or read is going to get a 1 for is duplicate row, or technically unique. And the other row, the subsequent row, is going to be tagged with a 2, right? And that's going to be a duplicate. So that's how we're deriving, is it a duplicate row or not? And you'll see that here, right? So we've identified that there are 27 duplicate rows and the other 1,086 are unique. What we're going to do with these duplicates, right? The whole point of creating this checkpoint is to ensure the integrity of our North America sales published data source. So what we're going to do is we're going to filter those out so that we only allow non-duplicated rows to flow downstream into that published data source. To do that, that's very straightforward. It's a basic filter. Is duplicate row equals unique. So only the unique rows. And now this is a key part to this flow, this left join. We're going to take the expectation. So this is the expectation that we went over earlier, where we have 1,095 rows. We have 1 row per product category per day in 2023. That's our expected granularity, right? So if we were to left join, so if we take this left join and we look at it here, we have a left join from expectation and North America sales. For each of the expected calendar dates and product category combinations, we're bringing in the corresponding sales data from the North America sales table. Now, how do we know if there's missing data, right? So how do we know if there's a deviation between what we expect and what is actually in the North America sales table? We're going to do that by following this path here. It's where we identify gaps or missing data. We identify the gaps in the report date and product category combinations within the North America sales table by basically doing this, right? Is null report date -1. So report date -1, it is, if we go back to our left join, we have a report date -1 that's generated. So -1 meaning there's a second occurrence of a column with the same name. So let me just put this in a little easier to review. So we know the blues are coming from North America sales. So here, coming from this input node, or technically in this here, directly coming from here. And we know that the pinks, so the things that are color encoded pink, those are coming from expectation. So Tableau is given the table on the left, the original attribute name report date. It's given the attribute report date that's coming from North America sales, report date -1, right? Because it's the same column name. Now we know that it's missing data if there is a row in the expectation result set, so a combination of product category and date value that's not in North America sales. And to determine if that's the case or not, we're simply going to use a basic is null calculation against the report date value that's coming from the North America sales table. So is this null? True or false, right? And this return, what we're using in this is a Boolean filter to filter to the trues. And the trues in being, hey, that is an instance of a missing data or a gap in our data. There is a missing date and product category combination. Some of the things I've done here, not very relevant, but I've removed all the fields besides the necessary ones. So we need to know the report date from the North America sales table. We need to know the report date from the expectation table and the product category from the expectation table. So what does that tell us? Or what does that allow us to do? It allows us to populate our published data source called data gaps that we're publishing to our Tableau server for our data team's review. And this data source here is we only want to contain the most pertinent information, right? And minimal, right? So we have 3 attributes, and those are going to be used to identify, well, we've already identified, but it's going to be able to use to tell the data team, hey, here are the combinations that we're missing from our North America sales table. This report date and this product category are missing from our North America sales table. And for them to go and address that, maybe what that looks like is going upstream to the upstream database owners or data owners and understanding why we don't have that combination in our North America sales table. Or maybe it wasn't something that happened upstream. Maybe it happened in the pipeline within, the pipeline directly within this MySQL database or your database. Now, for the rows that aren't missing and that aren't duplicate, right? Those are going to make their way into our downstream published data source for reporting purposes. If we follow this left join to this clean step is just basic stuff that you would want to do just naturally. I take some of the attribute names and change them to be report friendly, right? We wouldn't want report underscore date or product underscore date, year underscore number, etc. in our reports, right? We want report friendly names, right? User friendly names. No one wants to have database attribute names in their reports. So I'm going to clean those up, make them report friendly names, and then I'm going to remove some fields, so any fields that are duplicates or unnecessary. And I do this quite often. Really depends on what the meaning is of null. In all cases, you wouldn't want to replace null values with 0. It really depends on what is how meaningful is null. What is its purpose? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to your data customers or your report builders? But in this case, just for the purpose of this demo, I have substituted or replaced any null values with 0 for total sales. And that ultimately, that data, so that resulting data gets published to our North America sales published data source, and it looks something like this. So we have one row per report date and product category combination that exists. So if we're missing data, darn. If we have duplicates, well, we don't have to suffer from duplicates because we have taken a step in advance to remove those here. Missing data we can't do anything about, right? We can't just wave a wand and make that appear in here, but we can handle the duplicates and save our downstream customers and our report owners that headache. So again, that data looks like this. Contains our data from the North America sales table. It also contains the calendar data, right? So this is important information, right? So this is important for your typical dashboard. You want to be able to describe each date value. So what is the year number? What is the month name, day name? Does this total sales amount fall on a weekend? If it does, let's tag it, right? So there's some usefulness or it's material to have that information, right? We want that. We want to be able to describe each of these date values for specific types of analyses. All right, so that's our North America sales published data source. I previously mentioned these are going to be data gaps and duplicates. They're also going to be published to our Tableau server for the data team's review. Now, we can publish these to our Tableau server, but typically a data team isn't going to be sitting on your Tableau server all day monitoring, well, what does this published data source look like at any given moment? What we'd want to do ideally is set up an alert. And Tableau Server has this very useful feature called alerts. So in this case, it's going to be a data quality alert. All right, so let me switch over to my Tableau Server so that we can take a deeper look into these data quality alerts, this flow in general, and the project it sits within. All right, so we're on my Tableau Server. We're within a project called North America Sales. Within this project, there's objects, so flows, data sources, and workbooks that correspond to this project. The flow here, North America Sales, bridge enabled, this is the flow we just reviewed, right? So we had the two input nodes, expectation and North America Sales. We had 3 published data sources, data gaps, North America Sales, and duplicates. The point of this flow, again, was to understand if there's a deviation from our expectations. So does the North America Sales table have missing data? Does it have duplicates? And if so, don't allow the duplicates to flow into downstream reporting. Alert the data team using a published data source dedicated to duplicates, and also alert the data team of gaps in our data, so missing combinations of product category and date values, using the data gaps published data source. So let's look at the 2 workbooks that have been set up dedicated to this alerting system. So this system in air quotes. So we have 2 workbooks, one called Data Alert Duplicates, one called Data Alert Missing Data. Let's take a look at each of those. So here is the view within that workbook. And these workbooks and their views, they're not meant to be aesthetically pleasing. The value is not really in the content, really, like so to say. So what does it look like? How effective it is? I mean, it's the message, right? So the biggest piece here, what we're trying to do, the goal here is to tell the data team exactly what the issue is. So we tell them, hey, we have duplicates. We say the North America sales table currently contains 27 duplicate rows. And then we also, so this is just a step you could take, right? So sometimes you need to remember that your data teams, they manage tens, if not hundreds of tables across many, many schemas, maybe even across multiple database vendor products. So sometimes if you can remind them of the granularity, so the expectation for this table, that could help jumpstart their analysis. So what I've said here is I've said each report date and product category combination should be unique within the North America sales table. And the view in this case is showing those instances of duplicates. So the way you read this is, well, on each of these report dates, we have duplicates. So on the 4th of November, 2023, we have 3 duplicates. We have 1 corresponding to hardware, 1 corresponding to software supplies, 1 corresponding to software. Same thing in the case of the 11th of November, 2023, and all of these other dates here. Those are the 27 rows. So we have 9 days, 3 product categories. Those are our 27 duplicate rows. Let's take a look at the missing data alert. So this is a workbook that's set up in the same way, not aesthetically pleasing. Again, the value is just in this message. The North America sales table currently missing 9 rows of data. And then the expectation. So just remind the data team of the expectation. There should be 1 row per report date and product category combination. And here are the rows we're missing, right? So for the 15th of February 2023, we're missing the combination of the 15th of February 2023 and hardware, office supplies, and product category and software. So we're missing all 3 combinations for each of these days. Now, as I previously mentioned, your data team's not going to likely be sitting on your Tableau server looking at these workbooks that are set up for alerts, right? They're not going to be constantly refreshing and seeing, hey, are there instances of missing data or duplicates? And if so, let's address them. That's really not how it's going to work. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set up data alerts based on the contents of each of those views that I just showed. And what do those data alerts look like? So they look like this. This is an example of an email that your data teams will receive from Tableau Server indicating that, hey, there's an issue. And in this case, this email corresponds to our duplicates workbook. So our data alert set up to identify duplicates, and it contains that view, so that entire view, right? So we have a subject, data alert, duplicates. Then we have the entire view that we just looked at, right? So we have the message that says, hey, how many duplicate rows are there? And the reminder on the expected granularity, and also the details behind the duplicates. The same thing is true for missing data. So we have another alert, missing data, a subject, appropriate subject. We have the view that contains all the necessary details for the data team to take action, right? So they know that there's 9 rows of data missing, and then they know that the expected granularity of this report is 1 row per report date and product category combination. Here are the details of those missing rows that we're expecting in our North America sales table. Very quickly, what I'll do is just showcase what this workbook looks like, right? So how did I set up an alert on, say, missing data or duplicates? Well, I made a very quick workbook, right? Not aesthetically pleasing. I dragged in a few pills, so 2 dimensions, a count. And then what I did was, after creating this, I set up an alert off of this view by simply going to Watch, Alerts, and you're going to see that there's already a data alert that I created. If I wanted to recreate this, I could simply go Create. And what you need to do when you hit Create, you need to make sure that you have an axis of a chart highlighted. So Create, what we'd be doing here is, hey, we're specifying when we should send the alert to the data team or whoever we want to send this to. When this value is above or equal to 1, send the alerts. And here's the subject. And of course, you would fix this so it's not redundant. So you say data alerts, missing data. If you wanted to make this a little better, you could even mention the actual object that's missing data, so North America sales table or something like that. Something that maybe provides a little bit more information, because again, the data teams are going to be probably getting a few of these emails, hopefully not on a daily basis, but just having the table name in there or the object name in there is going to help them understand, hey, have I already addressed this or not? You can check how often you want to send this, who you want to send it to, etc. And you just click Create Alerts, and that's when it would show up here in this pane, right? So I've already created the alerts. It looks exactly like the one that I just showed you, threshold of 1, which is natural, right? So we care if we're missing any data. It's not at 2 rows of data do we care. We care if we're missing any data, naturally. Same thing with duplicates. We don't care if, it just makes sense to have a threshold of 1, because whether it's 1 row, 1 duplicate row, or 10, it's still an issue, and we want to address it. All right, so that in a nutshell, so I'm just going to walk back to, or step back into Tableau Prep. That in a nutshell is how you can use Tableau Server as your last line of defense. One thing I want to quickly speak to before closing out this video is that you may have noticed that this solution here it's not the most scalable, right? So in every instance of every flow that you have, you're probably not going to want to set up a flow that is used to understand if there's a deviation between expectation, what we're expecting, and what is actually occurring. So do we have missing data? Do we have duplicates in a particular table? Probably not going to want to do it this way all the time. So I would use this solution when you're having data pipeline issues. So specific data pipeline issues, say the North America sales table, every week we have an issue, right? Something like this can help. So you want it to be a targeted approach, right? You don't want to try to have every single flow that you build have something in it like this. In a perfect world, you wouldn't be using Tableau Prep as the last line of defense, but that's just how things happen, right? Data pipelines, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, even the best data engineers pipelines sometimes fail. This can help, but it's not the easiest thing to implement across all of your flows, right? Unless you've determined you were going to do this on the on the outset, and you've already been building this into every flow you build. Something that's maybe a little bit more scalable is simply having a flow that's dedicated to reading each table, developing an expectation for each of those table, and then comparing that to what's actually happening in the absence of all this other stuff, right? So you don't technically need all this other stuff to do that. You just need two nodes, one that has the expectation for each object, one that has the actuals for each object, do that comparison, create a data quality alert for any missing data, duplicates, and maybe even some alerts that speak to, well, is this total sales value sound, right? If on average we are generating $1 million in sales on a daily basis, and we somehow have a total sales value for the 1st of January of $200, well, that's probably not sound. You could do something, but that requires a little bit more thought beyond, the idea of missing data and duplicates. These are very easy to set up and understand and to determine, well, is it an issue? Well, it's an issue if you're missing data, any number of rows of data, and it's an issue if you have any number of duplicates, right? So I just wanted to really quickly talk to that, be open-minded in this approach, and just think about, well, how can I implement this, and where does it make sense to implement this? It makes sense to implement this in a very targeted fashion. Don't try to do something like this for every prep flow, unless you're just way ahead of the game and you've done this already for the prep flows that exist. If you enjoyed this video, then please like the video and subscribe to my channel for notifications on future videos. Thank you again, and see you next time.